Today I want to talk about walking, and a specific kind of walking, long-distance walking. In order to introduce the topic, I want to start with a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. And he said, "Few people know how to take a walk. The qualifications are endurance, plain clothes, old shoes, an eye for nature, good humor, vast curiosity, good speech, good silence, and nothing too much." While it may seem at first that these are pretty achievable qualifications, in fact, getting to that place can sometimes be pretty difficult. So lots of people walk, and for lots of different reasons. So you can amble or meander or whatever without any kind of destination, but in most cases we have a destination. We've been doing this since as long as we've been here on the earth. We've been walking places. Sometimes that's a market or something like that, and sometimes that place, that destination, is somewhere really important. And when we have that really important place that we're walking and we're going a long way, sometimes it's Jerusalem or Rome or something like this, it's called a pilgrimage, and the person who does the walking is called a pilgrim. Well, in Europe, starting in the Middle Ages, that place was called Santiago de Compostela. Santiago de Compostela. And it's in northwestern Spain, in an area called Galicia. Okay, so now we're looking at the Iberian Peninsula, and we'll see that actually not all of the Iberian Peninsula is actually Spain. It shares space with another country, which is Portugal. L. Portugal. And, of course, this is España. And in the center of the country, we have the capital city of Madrid. And then here in the northwest corner is Galicia, which is the region, and in the center of the region, we have the city of Santiago de Compostela. And it's called Santiago de Compostela because Santiago, who was one of the apostles, who in English we call St. James, actually, they found his tomb here in the Middle Ages, and so it became a really important place for Catholic pilgrims to travel to. And if you're coming from anywhere else by land to get into Spain, you have to travel over the Pyrenees, which divided Spain from which are mountains that divided Spain from the rest of Europe. You would have to go through France. And so people would come from other countries, from Germany, from France, from Italy, and they would walk the Camino de Santiago, or the Way of St. James, through the north of Spain. So even though people began traveling on the Camino de Santiago in the Middle Ages, they still do so today. And in this photograph we see a modern peregrino or pilgrim walking on the Camino de Santiago in the north of Spain. And there are many symbols that become sort of traditions along the Camino. One of these is this shell symbol, and I think we can see in this image a real shell. This shell has a special name called the vieira, and the pilgrim will actually carry with him or herself a vieira to indicate his or her status as a pilgrim. The other thing that is really symbolic are the stones that are left on top of these mile markers. This is well, actually a kilometer marker. Here we see kilometer 88. But these stones that are left on top of the markers represent something very personal for each of the travelers who leave them there. And it could be somebody, a loved one who's passed away. They want to leave it as a memorial for that person, or it could be a bad habit that they want to leave behind them. And each of these stones could have a very personal symbol for each individual traveler. It's a long way walking across the north of Spain, and typically to walk the entire Camino Frances, which would take typically 32 days on average. So you need to stop along the way. And the place that you stop is called an albergue. And these are very simple places to sleep. Basically, it's a bed and a blanket. And as you're traveling along the Camino, you have your credencial, which is your basically your passport that gets stamped at the various different stops, so that when you arrive at the end of your destination, you will receive your Camino, basically. And in order to receive a Camino, you have to walk at least the last 100 kilometers, which is about 62 miles. The medieval pilgrim was pretty different from today's traveler in lots of ways, but one really important way was that most medieval travelers were on the Camino de Santiago were pilgrims of a religious nature who were seeking absolution of their sins upon arriving at Santiago de Compostela. And a modern traveler is there for self-reflection or camaraderie or some personal journey which is less tied to religious themes. But the experience of putting one foot in front of the other and walking day after day in solitude and with others is an experience that is shared between this modern traveler and that medieval traveler. And ultimately, it's about being able to go through the process of the blisters on your feet and your soaking wet backpack and the stones that you leave along the way.